Let's talk to God. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk to God. Woo!
Good evening, everybody. Hey, it's Cutler. It's me. I'm here live and in living color. It's Cutler here. It is already the 1st of March. Welcome to March. Welcome to March. People say March Madness, but for me, it's March Gladness. How about that? Anybody glad to see the month of March? Glad that you were able to march right on into a new month? I'm telling you, there are some people who didn't make it into the month, but I'm glad that I'm one of the ones who did. Hey, let me tell you this. If you're just riding by this channel for the first time, do me a favor. Stop, slam on brakes, give me 1,800 seconds. That's all that I need, because this channel is about motivation. It's about inspiration. It's about taking the time to see how we can show up a little bit better tomorrow than we did today. It doesn't mean that today was a flop. It doesn't mean that today was a failure, but it means that we're just taking the time to just collectively as a team, as fellow passengers along the highway of life, we're taking the time to see, how can we become a little bit better? How are we doing it, you might ask? I'll tell you in just a moment. But if you haven't done so, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. After you subscribe, click on the notification bell so that you will be made aware whenever I've gone live and or whenever I have uploaded new content. That and then as you're coming into the chat, do me a favor, go ahead and click on the thumbs up to let YouTube know that you like the content, to let me know that you are encouraged by our conversations. I want to shout out our LTTC VIPs for the evening, and then I'll get into the conversation. I promise you I will. The LTTC VIPs are the people who jump into the chat room first. Now, each Tuesday and Thursday when I'm here live, it tends to be the people who sometimes jump into the chat even before I do. So I want to shout them out, and just to let you all know how much I appreciate you being here with me, how much I appreciate you being a part of this community, how much I appreciate you being a part of the virtual book club family, and how much I appreciate you being a part of the passengers, the fellow passengers, as we ride along, as we caravan along the road. I want to say this. I want to say this to the VIPs, LTCC VIPs. I want to shout you all out. My good friend Rosella Davis says, "Good evening. I'm ready for the ride," and I am glad that you are here. All right, and then let's see. I want to also shout out K Sharp. Good evening. K Sharp says, "Good evening to all of you." And then our good friend and fellow passenger Raydella Lewis. Raydella says, "Hi all." Well, hi back to all of you. And if you haven't had a chance, go ahead. Y'all know I'm from the South. And if you haven't had a chance, make sure that you shout out and say hi to your fellow passengers who are in the room with you. Make sure that, because listen, we are a community of winners, and we are a family of winners. We are the LTTC family. So make sure, if you haven't done so, that as you come into the room, you do a thumbs up on the conversation, that you chat with somebody else who's in the room. Make sure that you say a special hi to them. All right. Don't forget that. It's just nice to be nice. And of course, we're going to make sure that we observe our normal courtesies. That's what we do here. All right. And then in fact, some of your fellow passengers are reminding us about, because today is Tuesday, the month came in on a Tuesday. Some are saying, for those of us who observe it, don't forget that tomorrow is Ash Wednesday. So however you observe it, don't forget. So just as a reminder, tomorrow is Ash Wednesday. All right. Listen, the last time we gathered in this space, this virtual space, I was home with my mom and my grandmother, and we were talking about the fact that our young people become overwhelmed too. And we didn't want to lose sight of the fact that they become overwhelmed. And we're reading from this book, When I Am Overwhelmed, How to Handle Life at Its Most Intense Moments. In chapter 7, that talks about using everything that is within you, using your mind, your heart, and your mouth to handle those overwhelming moments, to handle those intense moments. And chapter 7 is dedicated especially to the young people and to the elderly, because many of you know that from me sharing my experiences that I was overwhelmed as a child. I was overwhelmed as a young person. Many people did not know, but I dealt with something that would be termed today social anxiety disorder. And many people didn't realize that I overcompensated as a child. I overcompensated in my academics to overcompensate for the part of me that dealt with that social anxiety. And a lot of people just never caught on to that, never paid attention to it. 4 years, I think I shared with you all, 4 years I went through high school. Not one day did I go into the cafeteria. It was not because I didn't like the food, but it was because I felt socially awkward in certain settings. So I would sit in the commons area and I would always posture myself against the wall, and either I had a book or something to write on. And people thought, there he goes again. There's that studious guy. I was voted, when I graduated from high school, my senior class, I was selected the most studious. And while I may have been academically gifted and intellectually advanced, that is true. But a part of that, what looked to the outside world like being studious, was a part of me compensating for the anxiety that I dealt with. So I encourage us all, check on your young people. Check on your young people. That's why I wrote chapter 7. We never know. We sometimes just don't know what they're going through, what they're dealing with. And so I encourage all of us, if you have young people in your life, if you have the blessing of having young people in your life, let's make sure that we are good stewards over their lives. Let's make sure that we're good stewards over everything that pertains to them. All right. So that's what chapter 7 is all about, making sure that we use our minds, our hearts, and our mouths to handle those intense moments. All right. Thank you all so much for being with me. I want to pick up page 71 and keep on talking about our young people. But in particular, I want to offer them and us some principles and some strategies, some practical ways of dealing with life, some practical ways of how to handle those intense moments. All right. I have friends who will watch the replay. I have friends who grew up with me. Some are even in the chat this evening who will say to me, I never knew that as a young person, those were things that you dealt with. And I said on this platform before, I thank God that I'm okay. I just, we can never know how many young people are still dealing with the baggage of, how many adults are dealing with the baggage from days gone by. I count my blessings, and I'm so grateful and thankful that I am okay spiritually and mentally and financially and academically and all of those areas. I'm thankful that I am holistically well. I really do. I thank God every day. All right, so I want to offer us some practical, uh, a practical perspective and some practical guidance as to how we advise and counsel our young people. So I think I'm just going to calm down and just read, because my hope is that the sincerity and the conviction and the fervor of my experiences were captured in the book. So I want to go to page 71 and just keep reading from page 71. My practical advice, because I said this before, children, I think that is on page 71 as well. Yes, children, our most valuable and priceless commodity, are being overwhelmed every day. For some of them, drugs, suicide, and self destructive behaviors are alternative solutions to the overwhelming pressures that they face on a daily basis. Do you not know that there are many of our young people, because of some of the pressures that they face, they're choosing alternatives rather than having to deal with the pressure? There are things that there are behaviors that they are using as alternatives for the pressure that they're dealing with. And many of you have read it. It's in the book that as I was writing this section of this book, I saw a news report about an 8-year-old boy who was so overwhelmed by being bullied at school until he hanged himself in his bedroom. I will never forget that. I was in the middle of writing this book, in the middle of writing this chapter, and that thing pierced my heart. And you see me clutching my hands because I remember that. I remember hearing that just like it was yesterday. And there's so many other instances. I think I wrote in the book, during that same time, I encountered a family who was mourning the death of one of their young men who had, I said, committed suicide. But Linda, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for teaching me how to tweak my language. And so I no longer say that someone committed suicide, because when we use that phrase, that someone committed suicide, committed has this connotation of something negative. And it is bad enough that the family is left without the love and the closeness of their loved one. So we don't want there to be a suggestion that something bad has been done by the person, because we never know what led to death by suicide. So I no longer say someone committed suicide, but I say they died by suicide, or that is the language that I use. So thank you for teaching me even more sensitivity when it comes to family members who are still reeling from the death of a loved one by suicide. So back to the text. But I encountered a family member who was mourning the death of one young man who had died by suicide. And let me tell you, young people are not immune against becoming overwhelmed, you all. They're not immune. I challenge us. I challenge us. Pay attention to our young people. Fabulous Me, I think the last time we chatted, you wrote in the chats that just the different conversations that you have with the young people in your life. I challenge all of us. Have conversations with the young people in your life. Encourage people who have young people in their lives to have conversations. And I will say this, I think I said it before, that as a Christian, I believe that prayer still works. But I believe that we have to do more than just pray. I hope I don't get lambasted by the community of faith when I say that. I believe we have to do more than just pray. I believe that we need to spend some quality time equipping our young people with some practical approaches to help them do life. My practical advice to young people, and that is the title of our conversation this evening. My practical advice to young people is to think, trust, and talk. To think, trust, and talk. We have got to teach them. Let's talk about each of these, because to say that, teach them to think, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that they don't have cognitive and reasoning skills or those kinds of abilities, but we have to offer them some practical guidance. And so I write them by saying we must teach them how to think, trust, and talk. Allow me to share with you exactly what I meant when I said that. We've got to teach them how to think when facing stressful situations. We've got to teach them how to collect their thoughts and process their feelings. It may seem old-fashioned, but we've got to engage them in meaningful conversations and ask direct and poignant questions. When I was a child, I wish someone would have asked me questions like, if you could change the situation that you're in, how would you change it? It makes them think. Would you change any of the players or the people? It makes them rationalize. It makes them reason. I wish someone would have asked me, how does this situation make you feel? Are you angry? Are you afraid? Are you sad? Let's learn to engage them. Let's learn to engage them in conversations where they get a chance to respond and where they get a chance to talk. And it's not just a yes or no. Don't ask young people yes or no, because that may be all you get is a yes or a no. You have to make sure that that's done. I'm reading and loving your comments. Someone, with respect to the phrase committed suicide, someone said what I just shared. Linda, thanks to you. They said that's a better way to say that. Someone else said, when we talk about our young people, they need coping skills. Someone says it's just not about praying, but we do have to do some works. Faith without works is dead. And then someone else also said, I'm so thankful that real talk was taught and practiced in the house I grew up in. It makes it so easier to pass that to my children. And that is a wonderful thing. And that is what I hope to be able to share with us this evening. I hope that we can do that, because we want our young people to be whole, complete. All right. So then I wish someone would have asked me those questions. Then after we teach them how to collect their thoughts and process their feelings, we have to show them what it looks like to trust. And I'll talk about trust in just a moment. But in one of my books, I honestly can't remember. It may have been Billboards to Better, or it may have been We Don't Always Get It Right the First Time. In one of those books, I wrote that in terms of thinking, we should never make decisions when we are emotional. And one of the things that we have to help our young people with is to be able to not make rash decisions when they're emotional, and to try to be in touch and in charge of their emotions as much as they can. That has been the fear of many people, that we have not been able to teach our young people how to be in charge of their emotions, how to be in charge of their emotions, and not let their emotions be in charge of them. May I be very transparent and honest, even within our modern day, the context of our modern day society, when we were dealing with the whole, police and black men, that whole situation was trying to teach our young boys how to be in charge of their emotions, because we wanted them to make it back home. So it is important that we teach our young people how to think, even at school, even when dealing with authorities, when dealing with parents, and when they, as we say in the country, when they start to smell themselves and they want to rise up and their nostrils flare open, we have to teach them how to still be respectful and manage their emotions, and not let their emotions manage them. We have to teach them how to collect their thoughts and process their feelings. Every year when I was teaching, I would always single somebody out in the classroom, because whenever I would talk about giving a pop quiz, inevitably I had a student who would jump up and say, "That's not fair. You didn't tell us there was going to be an exam." And I would say, "Life is not fair, and this is my classroom." And that will put them on the defense, and something just didn't settle well about them. So what would happen is that I would have a student who wanted to rebel and to become disrespectful, and I would tell the rest of my class, "Just for a moment, everybody put your pens and your paper down. I need to give you all a real life situation." And I would take that individual and I would say, "This is a safe space. I'm going to teach you a lesson that perhaps you have not learned yet. I still have the power of the ink pen. At the end of the day and the end of the semester, I have the power to input whatever grade I choose to put, especially if there's a space for subjectivity. If it's class participation, your class participation is worth 10%, that is the difference in a grade. So you want to be careful how you participate with me in this moment." And then I will say to the student, "You aren't going to learn that in some classrooms. But I'm not just here to teach you academics, but I'm here to teach you life." I hope they appreciate me for that. I certainly appreciate them for having the opportunity to do it. I love teaching. Oh, Books and Sunshine 111. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that comment. I just want to share this comment. Um, She said, This strengthens their emotional intelligence. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that kind comment. I appreciate you for saying that. All right. Now, let's see. I want to get back to the book, because as I'm reading, oh, your comments are so wonderful. Conflict resolution is a good example. Yes, thank my mother. Bring this to the house and say, "Yeah, I'm loving your comments. Children are quick to respond and not think it through. They must be taught, and it must be modeled." Envy, you're right. Children, and we as younger people, we did the same thing. We were responsive, we were reactive, and we didn't think. And I tell young people, they ask me for some of life's guidance, and I still tell them now: count before you respond, think before you speak. Count before you respond, and think before you speak. So after we teach them, I'll move on, but after we teach them how to collect their thoughts and process their feelings, we have to show them what it looks like to trust. Because remember, my advice, my guidance is to think, trust, and talk. So now that we've taught them how to think, and that's ongoing. That's an ongoing thing, and it requires patience. If you're not going to have patience with them, then don't put yourself in the position to open the door. It requires patience. It requires patience. And we have to model that for them. We have to model that for them. Let's go into trust. It should not be ignored, dismissed, or taken for granted that young people, even in their short lives, are dealing with lots of issues and pressure. And it is my prayer for every young person who reads this book or who is connected to the life of anyone who reads this book. It is my prayer that your life is blessed with multiple people who genuinely love you and are concerned about your well-being. I get emotional every time I get to this part of the book because I remember what it was like to be that young person. So I said, I pray that the people in your life are committed to being good stewards over the life and gift that God has entrusted to them. I pray that God will infuse a binding cord of trust so that you will always have someone to pray for you, help you, believe in you, and always try to make decisions for your good. I pray that God will give you the comfort to talk to people. And as your support circle grows, I pray that God will give you insight as to whom you should talk. I pray that for the brevity or the longevity of your life, you will always have somebody with whom you can talk about everything, about anything, talk about nothing, talk about goals, talk about failures, and talk about the things that make you laugh, cry, sad, afraid, and angry. I pray for you as I would pray for younger me. I probably need to count to 10 after that. That section always takes me on an emotional roller coaster. I treasure the lives of young people. I treasure the lives of young people. And I'm thankful for every opportunity that I have to motivate, to inspire, to teach, to guide, to counsel, to direct any young person. And I'm thankful and I'm honored whenever any parent, and some of you are in the chats with me this evening, I'm thankful whenever any parent has entrusted me with any part of their children's lives. That honors me, that humbles me. I'm honored, but it humbles me. All right. So then we have to teach them to trust. And we can only pray that they find the safety in being able to trust. All right. Walk them through. Walk them through. This fabulous me, you're right. This is a difficult time. This is the hardest time in their lives. Because it is a short amount of time. Being young does not last long. And then we do spend the rest of our lives refining what we have learned. Fabulous me, you're talking real good, as we would say. But that is absolutely true. It is a short amount of time, but it's the foundation on which the rest of their lives will stand. So that is why we've got to teach them to the extent that we can to get it right. That is why we have to invest our time in them. That is why our energy must be poured into them. That is why our lives have to be poured into them when they're young, because their youth is the foundation on which the rest of their lives will stand. And a lot of times we look at older people, we want to know, well, what's wrong with them, or why don't they do this, or why don't they do that? Their foundation was not always the strongest. And we end up working with each other in our adult lives, trying to shore up a foundation that we didn't necessarily get, or a foundation that we got that has cracks in it, a foundation that we got that has holes in it, a foundation that we got that is unleveled. We spend years just trying to shore up the foundation. All right. So we want our young people, their advice, their guidance is to think, to trust, and then to talk. I say to the adults, be careful how you handle the young people in your life. God is watching. See them when they show up. Don't ignore their feelings and emotions. You want to know how to handle the people, the young people in your lives. I'm telling you, please, if I have not said anything to us while discussing this, I know what it is to be a young person. I know what it is to be a young person wishing that I would have gotten a little more guidance, a little more assuring. I know what it is to be a young person who feels the weight of the intense moments. I know what it is to feel a young person, to be a young person who feels out of place. And no one saw it. And no one saw it. All right? So I write to the adults, be careful how you handle the young people in your life. Taquan Jones, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Let me know if this is your first time. I think it may be. And if it is, would you all please make sure you say a special hello to Taquan Jones, who has joined this evening. Thank you so much for joining. All right. But let me keep on going, you all. Let's see. Let me do this. Good. There we go. Yes. Let me keep on reading. God is watching. So when it comes to the young people, see them when they show up. Don't ignore their feelings and emotions. Hear them when they talk. Heal them when they hurt. Honor them when they trust you. It is our responsibility to help them navigate the potentially overwhelming situations of their lives. Teach them to use their minds, their hearts, and their mouths. Teach them to think, to trust, and talk. We've got to teach them. Teach them that they are of value. Teach them that they are important. Teach them that they are not too young to contribute to the society, that they're not too young to contribute to the conversation. Teach them as we shared with each other. Teach them that the picture, this thing called life, teach them that the picture is not complete without their piece of the puzzle. Let them know that they matter. Let them know that they count. When you create a safe space where young people will trust you, to them, you are the world. To them, you are the world. I believe that one of the reasons why there are young people who were young and now they're older who stay in contact with me is because it has always been my goal to create a safe space. Even as a professional educator, it has always been my goal to create a safe space for young people to learn, a safe space, because you never know the safe space that you create. It might be the only safe space that they have. The safe space that you create might be the only safe space that they have. And I'm trying not to do this, but I value young people for the jewels that they are, for the treasures that they are. Listen, they have something to say. They have something to say. This is my tribute. This is my advice to young people and to those of us who have been entrusted with the lives of young people. Let's teach them to think, to trust, and to talk. Next time we chat, you all, I'll move on to the elderly, because just as much as I have a conviction for young people, I have a conviction for the elderly as well. I hope that you all have enjoyed our time together this evening. I hope that I've offered something for us to take and empower and enrich the lives of the young people who are connected to us. I hope we, as a community, as a team, as a group of virtual book club members. I hope that we've gotten something that even if we don't need, we can share it with somebody else to remind them, make young people, let them know that they matter. You all, I'm here every Tuesday, every Thursday. I'm here trying to offer messages of hope, inspiration, and motivation. If you don't have the book, you can run on over to Amazon.com and get it. This is not a high pressure sales platform at all. That's not what it's about. It is about taking the time to explore the contents in this book so that we can share them with somebody else. So if you don't have the book, if you don't have the book, roll on over to Amazon.com, pick it up. Go over there and look for Gregory Brad Cutler, and the books will come up. But it's there. It's there. All right. I want to thank you all so much. Thank you for joining the conversation. Please tell somebody else, come on, let's talk to Cutler. I'll be here Thursday at 8 o'clock. I'll be here. And please, you all, let's do this. Let's continue to build community. Let's maintain connectivity. Let's stay in touch with each other. You all keep your heads up and keep your hopes up. Keep your hope up as it pertains to our young people. Make sure you do that. All right. Listen, the pandemic, the numbers may be going down in your area, but pandemic is still out there. So you all be safe. Stay safe and stay sane. And know this. This is the God's truth, that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. I appreciate every one of you. Good night, all.